they take that as motivation for next season, and actually they build on the fact that, you know, nobody respects us, we're not getting enough credit for what we did. And what they have done is actually play beautiful football over a sustained period of 8 months. Yeah, and I mean, you referenced Vincent Kompany earlier, who may not be there, and I guess, you know, there's very few survivors there from that first title-winning team. Say, you know, you got Silva there and Aguero.
That's it.
And but the one thing that must be said about City is that they haven't shown that they can be consistent winners. There's been shades of Chelsea about them, that they win the league and have a bad year. You know, they haven't, as a club, developed that dominant mentality that they win one and then the next season they're going to throw one in. And that's, you would assume with Pep that that's not going to happen. That's the natural assumption now, that they have the right manager. Mancini was volatile, probably had there was a shelf life in terms of how his methods would work with players that he didn't get on with. Pellegrini was he the real powerful managerial figure? Was that about the players? With Pep, this one is very much about the manager in terms of how it's being portrayed and how it's being covered. But so does he now bring them to that next step of being the all-seeing, all-conquering force
over a couple of seasons?
Because that is, to me, the mark of any greatness on any side is back to back.
Yeah,
it's retaining it. I don't think any great side is a standalone one season. It's two.
We've been having this debate on the show about whether or not there's a clock ticking on the Guardiola era at Manchester City. Jonathan Liu was saying that he thinks we are in the second half already of the Guardiola era. Graham Hunter on the show didn't think that we have tipped into that point just yet, and I'd be more in the Graham camp, because it feels like there's less pressure on Guardiola in this job than there would have been in Barcelona. It feels like it's a much better culture fit than Bayern Munich. You don't have the grandees of the club briefing against you and also then publicly saying, well, this guy's not very good, is he? Where's our Champions Leagues? At least at Man City, expectation was low. The money will continue to flow irrespective, barring some kind of World War III scenario that, you know.
We all live in that. We all live in that fear.
Yeah. So it just feels like perhaps this is the perfect scenario for Guardiola to have a sustained 5 or 6 seasons at the same place and see where that takes them. Yeah, well, I mean, maybe the main argument in favour of that point of view of, well, he's not going anywhere, is where is he going to go? You know, he obviously, he's thrived to an extent on the short term thing. I know he's spoken at points, hasn't he, about getting out of football and so on, but where is he going to go next? I mean, he's not really a big fan of the Spanish state, so he's not going to go and manage Spain. You know, where does he go? Is there ever going to be a return to Barcelona? Because beyond that, you know, that's possible, right? Yeah, well, after Messi goes, you would suspect, though. To me, that's the only thing that could really. He's done the Germany thing, Serie A. I mean, I don't know. Is there a gig there that would appeal? I mean, there's a club there that's been moulded. I mean, they were preparing for Pep before he went there. Yeah. He can make it a bit of a project, but is it somewhere where he wants to spend a decade or 5 or 6, 7, 8 years? It's questionable. But I think Barcelona is probably the only team that could tempt him away to another job. Yeah, the age profile of the current City team, and also whoever they buy next, you do sense that this is a team that has the resources to keep their best players together, irrespective of how good they get. No matter how good Kevin De Bruyne gets, Man City are always going to be able to pay him the money he craves for that. There's no cap on that. It's not like it's not like if you get really good at Liverpool, the Liverpool fans think, someone's going to steal us. No, they don't have that insecurity, but then again, I suppose they had the marquee player that people have really wanted. I mean, they had it with Aguero. You know, you assumed he was going to go to one of the Spanish giants. Didn't really happen. I know he had injuries at times when he seemed to be building up to that profile. De Bruyne, are they going to get to a situation where they want him? I'm not entirely sure. So, but I assume he's going to do more shopping in the summer as well. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. He's still got to work out the defence, and that's from a position of having won the league. So it's not bad, probably. Let's show everybody that cringy video that we were talking about. Here are the Manchester City players celebrating in advance of actually winning the title.
If you're proud of the place of your feet,
mentioned Isaac Guerra. Are there actors as well as the team players, or were they all?
I think there was one or two of the younger players at the front to the right, I think.
Is Gabriel Jesus not
yeah, there is. Yeah, no, there is. They only got some of the squad in and roped them in to
Ederson.
There's a few of the younger lads, and I think Leroy Sané was there as well. So they have. I assume they only had a budget to cover so many, you know, and De Bruyne and
contractual obligations.
Contractual obligations.
Not doing that.
I mean, yeah, it's a far way removed from the Man City of the Nicky Summerbee sort of Paul Dickov, League One sort of years, you know.
Somebody had a stat during the week about the last time that they'd lost 3 successive league games was actually under Stuart Pearce when they lost 6. Will Flood's name cropped up?
Will Flood, yeah, there was a list of. I mean, that's even. I mean, that was a reasonable Man City era in the sense that at least they were in the Premier League in the first place then.
Yeah.
But when you think of what a club was back in the sort of late 90s, I don't know. I mean,
they've got a distance to go, Man City, before they're actually cool.
Yeah, I think
not
so.
Cool.
But I mean, they really don't think that's cool about them. I mean, that word "cool." I mean, I just don't like it. But they're football. I mean, they're football. Imagine if they were horrendous to watch.
Yeah.
And then this is a club that's definitely in breach of financial fair play rules in some way. They're just getting around it with these clever sponsorship deals.
Yeah.
There'd be nothing likeable about it at all, really, as a project. I know they paid a living wage, don't they, and stuff like that. And they seem to treat their staff quite well. And I gather they try to do the best in the community and so on. But it's still a project that it's not. It's
not lovable.
It's hard to warm to. Their football at the moment is what makes you like City. If they were playing dreadful stuff, I'm not sure if you'd be rosy about the whole situation.
I actually like them more because they lost to Liverpool than if they just swatted Liverpool aside. It would have been, that's not really, this isn't great for English football. Now, you hope that Liverpool next season put it up to them over the course of the title campaign. I'm not sure Liverpool have a squad big enough to be able to do that, but at least there is some semblance of hope that in those games there will be motive for revenge, and there's definitely a team capable of beating them. Yeah,
and there's a vulnerability there that you need to build up a season. And I mean, it's a couple of weeks ago since they played Everton, and what was it, 83% possession or something, as dominant as you would see in a Premier League game ever. And you just wonder, is this the start of something? But they still have problems to solve, and I mean, without that, there's no intrigue about what's coming down the tracks.
One of the other big debates about who is going to be the manager of the year. I mean, is it Guardiola for having spent all that money and produced this football team, or does Sean Dyche get a look in for his unbelievable achievements with Burnley? And what about Rafa and the job he's done with one of the worst squads that Newcastle have had in a long period of time? That was the diagnosis from John Anderson pre-season, who thought that they weren't going to actually manage to survive. We're going to hear from John in a couple of minutes' time. First, a bit of a recap about what else was going on at the weekend. We're going to hear from DeAndre Yedlin speaking with Nathan about Rafa Benitez. First, though, here is Nathan and Pat Nevin.
What a job Rafa Benitez has done, Pat.
Stunning. Certainly since the turn of the year, they've been absolutely brilliant. They're a dangerous team. They're a well-organised team. They're a phenomenally structured team. They're a sensibly built team as well. You look at that core of that side just now, the two centre-backs, Lascelles, absolutely fantastic today. And he's got a mate beside him. Then right in front they've got Diame covering them. And it's actually not that complicated when you look at it. But a team that's winning the way they're winning just now, they've got a spirit that they've got just now. It's got a core of a team that never seems to change as well. It's kept them all quite fit. It's got a little bit lucky there now and again. But to do that with limited resources and find themselves arguably going to be in the top half of this league, considering where they were, do you know what? He's not going to get manager of the season, but he kind of should be in the running. Rafa has done a brilliant job here.
On the flip side, it's a 5th consecutive away defeat for Arsenal. They haven't picked up a single point away from home in 2018. They've lost to Newcastle, to Brighton, Spurs, maybe never acceptable, but a decent quality of opposition, and also Swansea and Bournemouth. I know you're not reactionary with these things, but looking at Arsenal's performance there with the money they've spent, they were going into another summer of should he stay, should he go? Is it just past that now? Does he just have to go?
To be fair, I think it would have been right to go last season.
And just a word on Rafa Benitez. We hear all the time from players who worked under him how good he is as a tactician and how good he is working man on man with defenders. What have you learned from Rafa Benitez this season?
Yeah, I think for the most part, just picking my times to go and when not to go, and positionally, when to press, when to sit back, just reading situations a bit more. And obviously that comes with games and experience, and he's obviously put his trust in me and played me a lot this season. So I'm learning from that. But every day on the pitch, we're working on tactics, and while it may not be the most fun thing to do, it's shown that it's helped the team massively. And I think it showed today we're a tough team to break down, and when we get on the attack, we have a lot of quality. So it's obviously helping.
That's DeAndre Yedlin there speaking with Nathan on the pitch at St James's Park after the game yesterday. We can say good morning to John Anderson. How you doing, John?
Yeah, very well, thanks.
I was quoting your pre-season expectations for Newcastle, and they weren't very high. You didn't really think that this squad was going to be good enough to sustain the club in the Premier League. So all the more reason to celebrate the job that Rafa Benitez has done.
Absolutely. Unbelievable job. Him and the players. The players have been exceptional as well. Rafa Benitez tactically has got everything right, but he needed the players to be able to go and do exactly what he wanted them to do on the pitch, and they've been exceptional. I have to say, going back to November, December, when they lost 8 out of 9, it didn't look good. It looked like it was going to be a real relegation scrap. And everybody was talking about goal difference, and that our goal difference might play a big part in us staying up. But the turnaround's been remarkable. And the fact that they've won 4 games on the trot is no mean feat in the Premier League. It's not an easy thing to do. And now everybody can go and enjoy the final 5 games of the season, knowing that Premier League football is guaranteed for next season.
Any team who can actually win 4 games on the spin, there's something deeper there. It's not just a kind of fluky, you win 1 game. It's like good quality performances sustained over 4 matches like that, and that means that the coaching and the management eventually is kind of rising to the top. Yeah,
definitely. And there seems to be a real happiness about the esteem in which Rafa is held by the people there, by the Newcastle fans. I even think media-wise, he seems to be. I think he invited them away when they were in a training camp in Spain, let them in, watch the team train. Just to try and improve the mood. It's been around Newcastle for the last period of time as well, and it seems like the players are quite happy too, and they're getting the results. And you look at the teams that are down at the bottom, they may well go down. Well, West Brom are probably screwed, and you've got Southampton and Stoke who've had to change manager, they've had to find an identity, they've tried to shuffle things around to try and find something. Even the other teams that are struggling, Swansea, have changed manager across the season. Newcastle have had this consistency, obviously, of management and of their application that's took them away from trouble. And I think there's always this chopping and changing at the bottom. Newcastle had the right guy all along, and you can see with their results in the second half of the season that they're well clear. They're deservedly well clear.
John, just on the point Dan makes there about the not changing, was part of the reason the change didn't happen because Mike Ashley was trying to flip the club and didn't want to pay out a manager when he thought that maybe that could be the job of the new owners?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the buyout, everybody thought it was going to happen. Unfortunately, it didn't. And I think the summer will be interesting to see whether that's going to come back again, whether somebody will come and buy the club. Rafa Benitez is a huge part of the football club, as Dan has just said, because supporters have taken to him. He's bought into the culture of the football club. He's bought into the culture of the area. And he's bought into the culture of the people. And if Mike Ashley had have got him or got rid of him, he would have had an uprising on his hands. He's people are saying now, if he's given the money, if he's given the right tools, what could he achieve here? All of a sudden, expectation levels have risen dramatically. The early part, before the ball was kicked in the summer, it was all about just staying in the Premier League. Will we be able to stay in the Premier League? And a lot of people are saying that Benitez should actually get manager of the year for the job that he's done here at St James's Park.
When you say he's bought into the culture of the club, how does that manifest itself? What are you talking about? What has he actually done that has made people believe that he understands the history and what it means to the area?
I think from the bottom down, he's got everybody involved in the running of the club, the tea ladies, the ground staff. He's got time for everybody. It's everybody's football club. And he's bought into what the club means to the people of this area. There's only the one football club in the city. everybody in this city bleeds black and white. It means that so much to the people. You know, I mean, the position that we're in, we get 52,500 people every home game. You know, it's remarkable, really. You know, if we were top of the table, if we were a Manchester City, you'd have to go and build a new stadium, because the stadium at this present time wouldn't be big enough, because it, as I say, every home game for the last, since Christmas, has been a sellout. I mean, West Brom come here in a couple of weeks, you know, absolutely nothing to play for, and you can't get a ticket for it for love nor money.
Yeah, and John, though, in saying that and in saying the positivity that's around Rafa, are you confident he actually will be there at the start of next season? Because that still seems to be a going concern.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, there's talk about them trying to tie him down to a new deal. He's still got 12 months left on the deal that he's on. I think he's going to want reassurances if Mike Ashley is still in charge. And Staveley's group may well come in, and if she comes in, she wants Rafa. You know, that was part of the deal as well. If she bought the football club, that Rafa Benitez stayed on. I don't think he could leave at this moment in time. I think everybody would be bitterly upset if he was saying that. If Mike Ashley is still in charge, he's going to want reassurances. You know, he got those reassurances last season in the summer, and they weren't forthcoming. You know, they weren't followed through. He's going to want guarantees that those assurances will be forthcoming this summer, and that money, and I'm talking about decent money, will be made available to strengthen this squad. Because what this squad has done is been remarkable, but I doubt very much whether they could keep doing it. They need to add quality to the squad.
One last question for you. How bad were Arsenal yesterday? Yeah, you can't hear us, John, can you? Don't worry about it. Come back to that a little bit later.
They were bad though, Arsenal.
Like,
that doesn't change.
0 points away from home in 2018. Zero points.
And it's, but there's almost an acceptance. It's a bit like you know, you're watching Wenger full time yesterday. You know, the bad loser. Come over, a bit of a smile, shake hands with Rafa, and there we go. I mean, they're all in on the Europa League now. I mean, that's it. Everything is Europa League, and really nothing they do in the rest of this league season will have any impact on the legacy of this season. It's a bad season in the league now. But
what
if
if Burnley
Europa
finish
League,
higher than them? Burnley are 2 points behind them.
I honestly, I mean, is there anything worse than, you know, Leicester winning a league at a time when Arsenal were still okay and could have been up there? You know, being behind Spurs consistently, you know, that's worse. I mean, Burnley, that's a footnote. That's it's bad, but I still think if they're in a Europa League final the following week, which they've got a bit of a job to do to get to it, that might save them. I just think that's what it is. I mean, on the manager of the year debate now, I still don't see though how it's not Sean Dyche.
Oh, right, not Sean Dyche.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I mean, maybe I'm going back on myself with the Kevin De Bruyne argument, because I mean, Pep is the league winning manager, but I still think, you know, you can talk about performances relative to resources, and what Sean Dyche has done. I mean, if they'd fallen away in the second half of the season, a bit like West Brom got 40 points last season, and then, you know, they were on holiday for the second half of the year. I think if you know, Burnley have kept it going, and if they got into Europe somehow, I mean, the fact that a club being happy to go into the Europa League, that should be celebrated in itself. If they got there.
If Arsenal win, then
if Southampton win the FA Cup, they're in a bit of bother, because Southampton would get a place, whereas the other teams that are left in the FA Cup will already have qualified for Europe through other means. So basically, I think if Southampton lose the Cup semi-final to Chelsea at the weekend, Burnley are in a pretty good place. But what they've done is extraordinary. I mean, what Rafa done is amazing. What Pep has done, you know, it speaks for itself. And I mean, imagine if sort of Klopp won a Champions League. But I still think this is Burnley. You know, this is a club that only got a Premier League training ground really last year. There was a lot of talk he was going to leave in the summer because he felt maybe he'd brought things as far as he could.
Now's the time to go.
Well, I mean, that is the other point.
You know,
I mean, he is
get out now.
He will never match this season, I don't think. You know, economics will dictate that.
Yeah. Okay, one last point. Why are Atletico Madrid... I was looking there just to see exactly how they're doing, and they're second in the table at the moment. I've vague recollection of what happened to them in the Champions League. There was like a late concession of a goal in one of those...
Qarabag, was it? I think it was. I think it might have been. I'm not 100% sure, but they had a nightmare campaign. And you are right, there was a late concession in one of the games that really hurt them.
And then I have a vague recollection of them scoring and it being disallowed, and it was like there was controversy.
But their first half of the season was very poor generally. Yeah. Like even the fact that they ended up making a stronger title challenge than Real Madrid ultimately, and they had a game against Barcelona very recently where if they'd won that game, the title race was back on. But the first half of the season, again, you're almost wondering, are things petering away here? But they've sort of, Simeone's got something about him, and they've sort of galvanised and come back stronger in the second half.
So you definitely make them favourites against Arsenal over 2 legs.
Oh, you definitely would, yeah.
Just the grittiness of it. Okay, also at Old Trafford, pitchside, Dave McIntyre and Kevin Kilbane had these final thoughts on yesterday's football action.
Does last week's second half performance against Manchester City change the mindset of Jose Mourinho? And I think we're all pretty much in agreement, probably not. He certainly won't change his mindset, the way he goes and approaches games. And I think today showed that he didn't necessarily... I mean, again, sometimes it's the players on the pitch that aren't necessarily showing any spark, and I understand that at times. But is he setting up his side, giving them the message, let's go and get at them, let's travel with the ball, let's get crosses into the penalty area, get Romelu Lukaku into the game. They just didn't do anything. They didn't show any spark today. There was no life from them. It was lifeless. That's how it was today for Man United. And I just thought throughout the game, watching the game, it's pretty dull. That is what you get sometimes when you watch Man United. It's lifeless. The crowd was flat today here. The crowd where you could hear the moans and groans throughout. You could hear individuals shouting out. And United lacked, as I said before, in so many different departments throughout the pitch. And I think that just transcended into the support.
And a week out from being the hero in the derby, Paul Pogba was hauled off after an hour.
Yeah.
Really had no effect on the game whatsoever. Another one of those performances we've kind of become used to from him, where he seems to flit in and around the game without actually doing anything.
Yeah, I think sometimes at times, as Manchester City did last week, if they go at Man United, then it creates gaps the other side, and that maybe frees up Paul Pogba a little bit. But today, yeah, he was pretty ineffective, as a number of his teammates actually were as well. They were pretty ineffective, should I say, throughout. And I think the body language in coming off, he was surprised he was getting substituted. You could see him look to the ground first of all. He saw his number, he kind of ignored it at first, and then he kind of shook his head and went off. Jose Mourinho gave him a little round of applause as he was leaving, but that message was clear to me. You're chasing a game and you're leaving, or you're taking, one of your best players, your most expensive buy off. That said it all to me today by taking Pogba off.
Yeah, what's going on at Man United?
It's to me, like, I just don't think it's going to happen for Jose. You know, that you watched them, right? They're a couple of seasons into his tenure there. He has spent a fair bit of money, no matter what he might try and spend it otherwise. And you watched him yesterday and you're thinking, they're going to have to spend a lot of money again to address this. Because there's a combination of players that either aren't playing for him or are just devoid of confidence. They got a great deal in theory, got a great deal on Sanchez. And yet, or even the perception of Sanchez now has already changed, and you're just looking at him going, you know, either you're not fancying this, they haven't figured out how to use you, or you've just come into this environment and straight away and you've just found this isn't going to be a place where you're going to thrive. I mean, as the lads mentioned there, you know, you would think Pogba after the derby performance, well, this is it now. You know, this is, I mean, that's where you play him firstly. But secondly, that just there will be some kind of natural confidence boost, and that it's all evaporated within the space of 7 days. It just goes to show you just cannot, you know, overreact to one performance, to one result. A couple of things just fell their way in the second half, and not fell their way. The players performed and they got a great result. You can't just completely sort of denigrate that. But what happened yesterday is more in keeping with a theme from the Sevilla game. It's more, you know, over 2 legs, you know, form over a period of time. That, I mean, you watch them at home, and I know their home record at the start of the season was quite good, but there are times where they're just very laboured, hard to watch. It's dull.
It's functional.
Functional. It's not exciting. It's not There's not sort of a flamboyance. There's not, oh, you don't know what's going to happen next. You could call that result, it's easy to say it now, but you could call that result from, from some way out. And that old United magic about the late goals and, this sort of thing that's almost hard to tie down what it is, this magic that works for them. It's gone.
Totally.
And I think he's very of Nathan yesterday. Only Liverpool and Manchester United have beaten Man City in the league, and both have followed that win by losing to the team bottom of the league. I mean, it's a great stat, but I'm not sure if you can
cause and effect.
Were they wrecked? I mean, I don't know. I think there's more to it than that. And I think,
is there a bit of like Mourinho thinks there's something wrong with the character of this group, and that they're celebrating like way late in the season when it's too late. You're celebrating madly the fact that you've beaten City in the derby when really there's only one winner from the league this season, and that's City. That actually there's a kink in the group. Their character's wrong. Yeah,
but I mean, can you buy character, or is it something that's fostered by how you run the club and how you do things? And
it's both, right?
Have you made decisions that have maybe chipped away at the character? And I just
maybe you've got a mixture of like a few bad apples, plus you're not fixing the culture, and it's like
no. And I mean, his own sort of excuses earlier in the season about not spending when they'd spent 300 million, and I just don't think people buy it anymore.
Yeah.
I think, you talk about the loss of magic. I think he's lost his magic, and I'm not sure if this is something that he can flick the switch and go, get back to a situation where he can just mould together a team that really believes in him, and you hear the players like him. The lads working over there, they say the players quite like him.
Yeah.
But
the stories still come out about how shocked they are about how he's bullying the left back.
Luke Shaw.
Yeah, how he's bullying Luke Shaw, and how surprised they are at that. But the point about him losing the magic, right? The evidence is there. But he keeps reminding us about how great he was, about how, like, it's only 3 years since I won the league at Chelsea. I have all of these trophies. It's like, I've won 8 league titles. It's like, okay, grand, you did do all that, Jose, and you were the special one, but that's the past.
Yeah, like, that stuff was powerful, but it's sort of very into sort of laughingstock territory now, where after every defeat, that he reminds people of what he did and what he used to do, and I mean, we've experienced it a small bit here where, Martin O'Neill, when he's under a bit of pressure, has had a bad day. Well, I've been a good manager, I won this and I won that. And no one's denying that someone has been a very good manager. But people are in the here and now. Things are evolving. And that team isn't evolving in a way that you could say with confidence, well, next year is going to be their year. You're not watching them. You might have that slight feeling about Liverpool now.
Exactly.
Clicking, which is, I mean, I'm still not sure I'm 100% sold on that either. But
at least Liverpool
there's a bit of momentum going into the end of a season.
Liverpool have a centre-back who you think is going to be their best centre-back for the next 5 seasons, and they have an attacking triumvirate who you think, if they can keep them, they're going to be great. With Manchester United, where are you going, that part of the team is fixed. Yeah. And it's always going to be brilliant.
Yeah. You've spent money on Lukaku, yet his record in the big games is questionable. You spent money on Pogba, and the relationship with him seems to be very hot and cold. You brought in Sanchez, and straight away he seems to be misfiring. So, and that's without even sort of going into, maybe is there a commanding centre-half figure, or can they have an excellent goalkeeper, but will that goalkeeper suddenly be wanted again by Real Madrid after the Navas sort of meltdown last week? So there's no area going forward where you're thinking, they're going to be dominant in this position or this area.
Ashley Young has been probably their best outfield player, or certainly has been in the conversation for best outfield player this year. He's not a long-term solution in fullbacks. He just isn't. So I mean, so if you sign Lukaku, you kind of need to build a team around him, and you need to. This is how the team is going to function. They're not doing that. If you've got Sanchez in the team, do Sanchez and Lukaku ever really work as a partnership, or like what does your team look like? If Sanchez is in your team, can you also then play that type of centre forward, or is he like a signifier of what you want the team to do? And is Sanchez going to be someone who puts the effort in and runs, or has he now decided that actually, well, when I was strolling around at Arsenal, things worked out okay for me?
Yeah, and that's it. I mean, okay, they signed Matic, which was certainly a bit of a coup at the time. But then, again, the questions about where ultimately a lot of it revolves around Pogba, because he was supposed to be that dominant figure. And yet, if he is more effective as that almost a number 10 or that breaking forward player like he was against, where he's freed up a bit to go and attack, then do you need someone else with Matic? That's a key position.
You sell Pogba, right, this summer?
I don't know. I'm not sure if they can. I'm not sure if they'll be able to sell Pogba.
PSG are stupid enough to give him.
PSG, okay. Maybe they are the
one buyer in the world.
They are the one buyer, but if Pogba digs in and says, no, it's better for me to be here. I mean, I've left here before once. I'm going to leave again this easily. You're going to have to produce a lot of cash to make me leave. I'm not sure if that's going to necessarily be made easy for them. And that's also an admission of failure as well. If you let Pogba go, I think there's a bit of pride at play here as well. If you decide to get rid of him, then one of the keynote things that's happened here, you've got that wrong.
You took him off yesterday when you're like it's 0-0 still. You've got a chance to win the game. That's an admission of failure, right?
You would think so. I mean,
it's just a bigger kind of like, I mean, he's made that admission now. It's like, I can't. Or is that just punishment and can he get him back?
Is it trying to draw a reaction in some way? But is that what works? Again, you think that Mourinho's trying to lay down, the law, and he's come out afterwards and he's had a bit of a go with the players. I know after every defeat he's always game playing, but he just seems to be fiddling around here in a way that he doesn't seem to be at one with the group. And I don't see how you can just go and buy the players and suddenly make this all click. They need City to regress, in quite a serious way to come back into a situation where you think they could finish ahead of them.
Yeah. All right, a couple of quick comments. Paul Little, how you doing, Paul? Says, good God, what was that City video? Was it a promo for their airline? Yes, it was a promo for their airline, but it was also the song that you sing to children if they're happy in their nappy, and that was how Manchester City decided that this was a ditty that would resonate with their fans and customers of their airline.
Yeah.
If you're happy in your nappy.
A couple of taxi drivers in Manchester there as well, just to build up the local feel.
Yeah. It's success, in inverted commas, bought and paid for by an Arab benefactor's money. Nothing for any club to be proud of. Liverpool, Spurs, Arsenal and United all earn the money they spend, whereas the likes of City, PSG and Chelsea needed sugar daddies to buy trophies. Well, that is completely wrong about Manchester United. All of the money that Manchester United has spent in recent seasons has been financed by debt from the Glazers. Sure, they earn loads and loads of money. They earn that money to pay down the debt that the Glazers saddled the company with. It's one way of doing business, but it's is it any different from, at least there was an oil product in the ground that got sold to people to go and make plastics and travel around the world with. The Glazers used a financial instrument to load the company with debt, which they then made sure that they were able to sell tractors in Ukraine with, or Armenia, or wherever the tractors analogy was supposed to take me there.
Yeah.
There's no
I'm not sure. I don't think
John W. Henry isn't exactly straightforward.
There's a shortage of altruistic sort of good guys at the top end of the Premier League.
Yeah.
The money's all coming from from somewhere. Bloated TV deals as well always helps. It's helping everybody.
Yeah, totally, and that kind of evens the playing pitch
to a point. I know there's no doubt. I mean, we mentioned it, like we talk about regulations and what the clubs with the bigger sponsors are able to do. Yeah. It's definitely given them.
They make them up.
They've used the loopholes there very cleverly, you might say, or maybe it's just a failure of the authorities to really enforce it.
And luckily we're not living in France, because the league there is even worse. PSG win the title by beating their closest rival in every sense, especially financially, by 7-1, 7-1. Here are Ligue 1's relative wage bills. This is elite European football. This is exacerbated by UEFA and the Champions League. This is modern football. Ugh. So that's PSG there. We're going closer. 6.3 million. Is that their average salary for... The average footballer gets paid £6.3 million, PSG. Jesus. Troyes at the very bottom there is less than...
Monaco would have been higher in terms of their expenditure, but obviously they've had to cost cut a bit the last couple of years.
The billionaire got a divorce.
He got a divorce, yeah. But there was, at one point the other clubs were kicking up against Monaco, right, because of the tax breaks that they were getting. But it would appear there's a slightly a bigger advantage at play now with PSG.
Atletico beat and drew with Roma. Not bad results when you see where Roma have ended up in the Champions League, says at Juan Jose 16. So thanks for that reminder about how well they did earlier on in the Champions League. And hashtag the spending one never had the magic. He has just been outspent, says Michael Greeny. I mean, he definitely had magic at Porto when he wins the Champions League. That
was the magic. And even that first Chelsea team, that Chelsea team, of course, that was the new money of the time. It's almost sort of the figures now. Abramovich coming in and buying a couple of players like Duffer from Blackburn and a few others. But those players definitely loved him. You know, you listen to how Duff speaks about it, and you know Lampard and those players. He had something with that team. There's no doubt he had a bond with that team, and he was the right manager for that team at that moment, for where they were on the curve.
And then he goes to Inter and wins the Champions League. It's amazing.
Yeah, no, and there's no doubt, but it just seems that he's getting angrier and more at war with the world and trying to preserve his reputation or whatever it might be. And I'm not sure where he's going to be in 5 or 10 years. I don't think the rest of his football career is going to be happy, to be honest.
All right.